Callie steps off the Federation cruiser into the humid electric air of the Earth night market, and everything is alive in colors. She cannot name. The lights are flickering blue and gold and pink, and the shadows dance between the neon signs while steam rises from large metal pots and humans shout out prices and words she cannot catch. Fast enough, the scents crash into her sensors and override her filtration systems, sweet and sharp and something that smells like the sun. If the sun had a scent, and she pushes her hood back just to see it better. The crowds pressing around her as children with sticky hands run past holding bright red candy on sticks, and couples share bites from small paper trays, and old men sit on plastic stools beside stalls that glow with fire and laughter. Callie feels her heart beat faster because this place is not clean and sterile like the Federation halls where voices speak softly and nothing ever spills and nothing ever burns. Here the heat is real. It comes from the grills that crackle and pop with orange fat, and from the giant black woks that toss noodles high into the air while flames leap up and vanish like sparks on the wind. She sees a young woman with dark hair tie it back with a rubber band as she flips skewers of meat that glisten in the light and drip juices onto the coals below, sending up smoke that smells of salt and spice and something. Callie cannot identify. A man with a wide smile is holding a small white cup, and he tips it back to drink and then starts laughing so hard tears run down his face, and he shakes his head but goes back for another sip, and Callie watches as he points at something on the table, and the vendor nods and pours a thick red liquid into the cup, and the man takes another drink and shouts something to the sky and the humans around him. Cheer. Callie has seen planets burn and has walked through the ice storms of Rigel and stood beneath the diamond rains of Vitrax, but she has never felt this kind of heat, this wild chaos that is in the air here. A child bumps into her and drops a small fried ball onto the ground, and Callie bends to pick it up, but the child shakes their head and runs away. Callie holds the warm sphere in her hand, and it is still steaming. She looks around and sees a sign above a stall that reads, "Danger Hot Wings Challenge," and there are pictures of people with their mouths open, and eyes wide and faces red, and there is a board that says, "Win if you can finish." The chef behind the stall sees her and waves her over with a grin. His hands are covered in sauce and his apron is stained red and orange and brown, and he gestures to a seat. Callie feels something inside her click, something deep that says yes to this moment, yes to this madness. She sits down. The chef places a single wing in front of her, and it glows with a red so deep it almost looks black. The crowd gathers with phones raised, and children climb onto crates to see the alien who will try the death wing, and Callie picks it up, and the heat rises from it like a promise. She looks at the chef, and he nods when she takes a bite, and the world explodes in a heat that tears down her spine and up into her eyes, and her vision shatters into shards of light and color and pain, and she cannot breathe, but she cannot stop eating. Callie feels the heat crawl into her lungs as she chews, and she thinks she can taste the color red. She thinks she can taste the scream of a son being born, and she feels her vision swim with lights she has only seen in deep space storms. She wants to put the wing down, but her hands do not obey her. They lift it again, and she takes another bite, and the sauce drips down her chin and onto the table, hissing as it lands on the metal. The humans around her are shouting and clapping, but it sounds far away, like she is underwater or falling through a nebula. The chef leans in close and whispers something, but she cannot hear it over the pounding in her head. She feels sweat running down her neck, but it feels good. It feels like something alive. She swallows and feels the fire bloom in her chest, and she gasps, but it is a gasp of laughter, not fear. She starts to laugh, and the humans around her laugh with her, because they see it. They see that she understands. Now she reaches for a small cup of water, but the chef pulls it away, shaking his head with a grin, and she sees the challenge in his eyes. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, and the sauce burns her skin, but it feels right. It feels like a reminder that she is alive in this moment more than she has ever been in the cold, sterile halls of the Federation. Callie grabs another wing from the plate, and the crowd roars, and she bites into it, and the heat is different. Now it is not just pain, it is a rhythm, it is a song that plays on her tongue and in her blood, and she feels tears streaming down her face, but she is smiling and laughing, and the chef nods in approval. The colors in the lights around her dance with the heat in her mouth, and she sees the reflection of herself in the metal table, and her eyes are wide and bright, and she does not look like the quiet, careful officer of the Federation anymore. She looks like a human on Earth. She looks like someone who is alive. She takes another bite and feels her hands shake, but she keeps going. She keeps going until the plate is empty and the sauce is all over her fingers and the table. And the chef places the cup of water in front of her and bows his head, and she lifts it to her lips, but she does not drink it. She sets it down and looks at the crowd, and they cheer for her. They lift their phones and take pictures and videos, and she feels the moment freeze in time, like the first time she saw the rings of Solara or the comet storm over the twin moons of Birel. She feels the memory burn into her mind, and she knows she will never be the same. The chef says something she does not understand and places a small bottle of the sauce into her hand and closes her fingers around it, and she nods and feels the weight of it, the promise of it. She looks up at the stars above the market lights and feels the heat in her chest and knows that she has tasted something worth crossing galaxies for. Yarek steps off the Federation cruiser hours after Callie has vanished into the market, and he holds a tablet in one hand, scanning for her signal as he moves through the tight lanes of food stalls and sizzling carts. He sees the steam rising like breath from the metal grates, and he smells something sharp, something sweet, something burning, and he scowls because the air here is dirty and chaotic, and it clings to his uniform, and his perfect Federation boots collect dust as he walks. Yarek is here to maintain order, to retrieve Callie, and to remind these humans of the agreements they signed with the Federation. But the humans are not looking at him. They are laughing and dancing to music that comes from speakers strapped to a cart. They are biting into strange colored noodles and red fried things that drip sauce down their wrists as they eat. They are alive in a way that makes Yarek uncomfortable, because in the Federation everything is quiet, everything is efficient, nothing ever drips, nothing ever stains. But here the air itself feels like it could leave a mark. Jarek sees a boy with a small bowl of soup steam rolling from its surface, and the boy slurps it down while tears pour from his eyes, and the boy smiles through the tears, and Yarek cannot understand why pain would make someone smile. Yarek sees a sign that says Ghost Pepper Curry Challenge, and humans are crowded around it, clapping and chanting, and a man in a stained apron waves a spoon in the air while shouting words Yarek cannot translate fast enough. Yarek tries to push through the crowd, but they press back around him. They are not afraid of him and his uniform. They are here for something else, something that he does not yet understand. He sees the chef pour a thick dark sauce into a bowl and mix it with bright red pieces that hiss and crackle, and a man steps forward and takes the bowl with shaking hands. He eats a spoonful, and his face turns red, and he starts to cough, and then he starts to laugh, and he takes another spoonful. Yarek watches as the man drops to his knees, laughing and crying and gasping, and the crowd roars with him, and Yarek feels something twist in his chest, because this is not order, this is not calm, but it is alive, it is loud, it is messy, and it is alive. Yarek steps forward, and the chef sees him and grins wide with teeth stained red. He offers Yarek the bowl. Yarek hesitates, but the crowd chants, "Take it, take it, take it," and the chef holds it higher. Yarek takes the bowl, and it is warm in his hands, and the steam smells like fire and metal and sunlight. Yarek lifts the spoon, and the sauce drips back into the bowl, slow and thick like lava. He takes a breath, and the world around him holds its breath with him, and he takes a bite, and the heat explodes in his mouth and climbs up his throat and into his head, and he feels his eyes water and his vision blur. But he takes another bite, because the crowd is shouting now, and the air is pulsing with their voices, and the chef is laughing and clapping, and Yarek feels the heat tearing through him, and he feels his knees buckled, but he does not drop the bowl. He takes another bite and another, until the bowl is empty, and the crowd roars, and the chef slaps his back, and Yarek is on fire, and for the first time in years he feels alive. Yarek is shaking as he stands in the middle of the market bowl, empty hands burning, eyes wide. The crowd disperses, leaving trails of laughter and smoke behind, and Yarek feels the world spin around him, lights stretching and pulsing as the heat in his veins thrums like the engines of a war cruiser. He wipes tears from his eyes and sees streaks of red on his gloves, sauce that sizzles against the fabric, leaving dark stains, but he does not care. He feels something inside him breaking, something cold and quiet cracking open, and he cannot tell if it is the heat or the taste or the way. The humans laughed together without fear of the fire in their mouths. He sees the chef watching him with a grin, nodding slowly like he understands what Yarek is feeling, like he has seen it before, and Yarek tries to speak, but no words come out, only a gasp that is half laughter, half sob, and the chef pats him on the shoulder, leaving a red handprint on the clean gray of his Federation uniform. Yarek stumbles through the market as scents hit him one after another, the sharp citrus sting of lime, the heavy sweet smoke of grilled sugar, the deep spicy perfume of something fried in bubbling oil, and each scent calls to him like a star in the dark sky, and he wants to taste them all. He wants to taste everything he has never tasted in the quiet halls of the Federation where food comes in gray packets and nutrition is measured in exact milligrams, and no one ever sweats, no one ever cries, no one ever cries, no one ever feels the burn. Yarrick sees Callie standing at a small stall, her face shining with sweat, her eyes bright, her hands holding a skewer with bright orange pieces, dripping sauce onto the ground, and she is laughing with a child who offers her a tiny cup with something blue inside, and she drinks it without fear and hands the cup back, and they laugh together. Yarrick calls her name, but it sounds weak against the noise of the market, and she turns slowly and sees him, and her eyes widen, and she smiles, like she is seeing him for the first time. Yarrick wants to tell her that they have to leave, that the Federation is waiting, that this place is dangerous, but the words die on his tongue because he sees the fire in her eyes, and feels the fire in his blood, and he knows he cannot leave, not yet. Callie walks toward him, and hands him the skewer, and he takes it without thinking and bites into it. The heat is immediate, but now he is ready. Now he does not fear it, now he welcomes it, and the spice blossoms across his tongue and down his throat like a sun rising inside him. Callie laughs, and the sound is brighter than any star Yarrick has ever seen, and he laughs too, and for a moment the market, the chaos, the smoke, the colors all blur together, and he feels free, he feels like himself, he feels like someone he was never allowed to become in the silent, cold corridors of the Federation cruiser above, and he knows deep inside that this place, this fire, this chaos will change everything. The Federation scanners circle above the market, their lights blinking as they record the heat signatures and chemical traces rising from the stalls. They send data to the command cruiser in orbit, where officers in clean suits analyze the streams and frown at the results. The scanners pick up particles from the spices that rise into the air, clinging to skin and fabric and hair. They detect oils that crackle at temperatures too high for their filters to contain, and chemical compounds that set off low-level alarms on the Federation health protocols. Section 12 biohazard alert blinking across screens as scientists read off the list of potential threats. Capsaicin levels considered weapon-grade, acidity levels enough to corrode, microfilter scent molecules capable of bypassing rebreathers and sending spikes through the neural sensors of Federation officers who walk too close to the sizzling walks below the scanners. Record the laughter of humans as they eat food that makes them cry. Record the shouting, the bargaining, the singing, as the smoke rolls over the market and clings to everything they record. Yarrick and Callie standing at a stall eating pieces of fried meat dipped in sauces so hot their sensors cannot properly measure the heat spike, and they send the footage to the Federation Council for immediate review. The council sits in silence as the screens show Yarrick with sauce dripping down his chin, eyes wide with tears and laughter. Callie beside him, biting into another skewer and closing her eyes with a smile that the scanners log as a regular emotional response. The council pauses the footage and zooms in on the bottle of sauce the chef handed to Callie. The label reads death in bright letters. The chemical analysis says volatile. The council members murmur about contamination, risk, about biohazard containment, about enforcing the trade embargo with immediate effect. The lead counselor raises a hand and the room falls silent as the scanners continue to stream footage from the ground below. They watch humans eating bowls of noodles so red they look like molten metal. They watch children holding candies that drip neon liquid onto the ground. They watch people crowding around a single cart as the chef flips peppers into the air that glow with a dangerous red and catch them back into the pan with hands bare and smiling. The council sees the chef dip his finger into a pot of sauce bubbling like lava and taste it without flinching. And they see the humans cheer and laugh as he does it, and the council does not understand the scanners record chemical reactions that create scents so strong they bypass standard filtration. The scanners record humans consuming these chemicals, willingly record the rise in heart rates and body temperatures, record the tears, the sweating, the trembling, the laughter that follows. The council votes unanimously to classify Earth cuisine as a level 5 culinary hazard, to be banned from all Federation trade routes and stations effective immediately, and the scanners transmit the ban to the ships waiting to load cargo in orbit above Earth. But the scanners also record something else as the market continues to burn with colors and life. Below, they record the look in Yarrick's eyes as he takes another bite. They record Callie as she opens the bottle of death sauce and tastes a drop on her finger. They record the way she closes her eyes and smiles as the heat takes her, and the scanners cannot categorize that, they cannot measure it, they can only record it. The moment the band transmits through the Federation channels, the market below does not stop. The smoke still rises, the pans still sizzle, the spices still bloom in the air like a silent explosion that clings to everything it touches, and the humans still line up at the stalls with coins in their hands and hunger in their eyes. Yarick feels the message ping on his wrist device, a cold blinking reminder that the Federation has decided this place, this food, this chaos, is too dangerous to allow. But as he wipes sweat from his forehead and licks the sauce from his lips, he feels the heat still burning in his blood, and he does not want it to stop. He sees Callie standing across from him, the small bottle of death sauce in her hand, the red liquid moving like slow fire against the glass, and her eyes are alive, brighter than he has ever seen them, even when they were drifting through the crystal storms of Orion, even when they stood beneath the glass gardens of the Federation embassy. On Hallex, nothing ever made her eyes look like this. She holds the bottle up to him, and he sees the smallest smile on her lips as she tilts the bottle and lets a single drop fall onto her tongue. The heat hits her, and her eyes close, and she sways. For a moment, her breath catching before she exhales and laughs, and the sound is like the ringing of a bell, clear and sharp above the crackling sounds of the market. Yarick feels the notification ping again, reminding him that he is required to return to the cruiser, that he is required to enforce the ban. But he looks around and sees humans dipping fried pieces into sauces so hot the steam glows in the neon lights, and they bite and cough and laugh as tears roll down their cheeks. He sees the chef who gave him the bowl standing at his cart, flames rising around him as he flips the peppers and meats with metal tongs. The chef sees him and waves him over with that same red-stained hand, and Yarick feels the weight of the Federation on his shoulders, but he also feels the weight of the fire in his chest, and in that moment he chooses the fire. He walks to the cart, and the chef holds up a skewer dripping in sauce. So dark it looks black under the lights. The chef grins and says something in a language Yarick still cannot fully understand, but he feels the meaning in the way the chef gestures eat live feel, and Yarick takes the skewer. The sauce drips onto his wrist and it burns, but it is a good burn, a burn that reminds him that he has a body, that he has a heartbeat, that he can still choose to taste something dangerous, something real. He takes a bite and the heat roars through him and his knees buckle, but he does not fall. The chef laughs and claps him on the back. The crowd around the cart cheers as Yarick takes another bite and another, and the fire becomes a rhythm in his blood. The Federation scanners above record the moment. Yarick, standing in uniform with sauce dripping down his chin, flames in the background, sweat on his face and a wild light in his eyes, and the scanners send the footage to the Federation Council, but the scanners cannot stop him from taking another bite. Callie stands beside Yarick as the heat from the skewer rolls through the air around them, the sauce dripping onto the dusty ground, leaving small smoking marks that hiss in the cool night air, and she feels the vibration of the market under her boots. The music, the laughter, the clattering of metal against metal, and it all feels like a second heartbeat. Inside her chest she looks at Garrick, his face flushed, his eyes wet with tears that the sauce has pulled out of him, but he is smiling, the kind of smile that she has never seen in the Federation halls, where smiles are polite and cold and measured. This smile is wild, it is cracked open and real, and it makes her laugh, and she does not know why she is laughing, only that the moment is too bright, too sharp not to laugh. She takes the skewer from his hand and bites into the last piece. The sauce explodes across her tongue, and she feels her knees weaken. But she leans into it. She feels the burn climb into her sinuses, and she gasps, eyes squeezing shut, and when they open again, the market seems clearer, brighter, more alive. She sees the chef raise his hands in the air and shout something that the crowd repeats back to him, their voices rising above the hiss of the grills and the soft hum of the neon lights. The chef points at Callie and at Yarick, and the crowd begins to cheer and stomp their feet on the ground, creating a rhythm that vibrates in her bones. She does not know the words, but she knows the meaning. The crowd sees them. They see what they have done. They see that they have tasted the danger and chosen it anyway. And for a moment, Callie feels like she is standing at the edge of a star, looking down into its burning heart, and she is not afraid. The Federation scanners hover above the market, recording every movement, every sound, every chemical trace, but they cannot record the way her heart feels, like it is about to burst, the way her blood feels like it is alive with the fire of the sauce, the way she looks at Yarick and sees him not as an officer, not as a soldier, but as a person, as someone who is alive like her in this moment. She sees the message blinking on his wrist, reminding him that they have orders, that they are meant to return to the ship to report the contamination, to enforce the ban. But Jarek raises his wrist and with a single swipe deletes the message, and the small act feels bigger than a rebellion. It feels like a promise. Callie lifts the bottle of death sauce, and the chef watches her, nodding slowly as she uncaps it and tilts it, letting a few drops fall onto her tongue. The burn is instant and pure, and her eyes water, but she holds the gaze of the chef, who raises his hand in respect. She feels the heat crawl down her throat and into her chest, and it is like lightning, it is like breathing fire, and for a moment she imagines the Federation ships above, and the quiet halls, and the taste of ration packs, and she knows she can never go back to that silence, to that lifelessness. She knows this is the moment she chooses to be alive. The smoke drifts through the market like a living thing, curling around the lights and the laughter and the sizzling pans, and Callie breathes it in with the heat still burning in her mouth and in her blood. The people around her are dancing to music that comes from small speakers balanced on crates, the bass shaking the ground as the neon lights flicker in colors that match the sauces dripping from skewers and bowls, and Jarek stands beside her, shoulders relaxed for the first time since she has known him, as he reaches out to catch a small paper dish handed to him by a laughing child with sticky red sauce on their hands. The dish holds a fried dumpling covered in bright orange flakes that glow under the lights, and Jarek looks at Callie, and without words she nods, because they both know what this means. He bites into it, and the flakes crackle and hiss in his mouth, and his eyes go wide with the shock of heat and flavor. Tears spill down his cheeks, but he laughs through it. The sound, sharp and real, and she feels the laugh catch in her own throat, because it feels like the only sound that matters in this place. She reaches out and tears off a piece of the dumpling, and the flakes bite her tongue immediately, the heat climbing into her head, and her vision sparks with color. But she does not stop. She lets the fire move through her, letting it replace the cold logic that the Federation drilled into her from the first day she put on her uniform. She sees the chef standing at the cart, his arms folded across his chest as he watches them with a nod of approval, his face lined with smoke and smiles, and he says something she cannot understand, but the way he looks at them feels like a blessing. The scanners above continue to hover, red lights blinking as they record and transmit every drop of sauce, every burst of heat, every trembling hand that lifts food to hungry mouths. But the scanners cannot taste, they cannot feel, they cannot understand why tears and laughter come together in this place, and why people choose to eat things that hurt and love it. Callie steps closer to the cart, and the chef hands her a bowl of noodles that glisten with dark sauce that smells of vinegar and fire. She lifts a strand with shaking fingers, the steam rising into her face as the crowd around her watches, and she sees Jarek beside her lifting his own bowl, and they eat together, and the sauce is sharp and alive. It stings the edges of her lips, and her eyes fill with tears again, but she feels the heat dig into her chest, and she feels alive in a way that nothing in the Federation ever made her feel. She sees a small girl in the crowd, watching, her eyes wide and curious, and Callie kneels and offers the girl a single noodle. The girl takes it, hesitates, then eats it, and her face scrunches up as the heat hits her, but then she smiles, the biggest smile Callie has ever seen, and the people around them cheer and clap, and the music grows louder, and for a moment Callie feels that the market is a single heartbeat, the people, the smoke, the laughter, the heat, all moving together as one, and she knows that she and Jarek are now a part of it forever. Above the market, the Federation cruiser hangs like a silent judge, its lights blinking in cold patterns as officers watch the live feeds from the scanners, seeing Jarek and Callie laughing and crying with sauce on their faces and fire in their blood. The officers speak in measured tones about violations and containment, about retrieval orders and emergency quarantine, but their voices sound hollow even to themselves as the images play across the screens, the images of humans dancing in the smoke, of the market eating food so hot it makes them cry and then laugh and then reach for more, the images of color and fire and life that the Federation rations could never replicate on the ground. Jarek feels the heat settle in his chest, a warmth that is not the burn of the sauce, but something deeper, something alive, and when he looks at Callie he sees her wiping tears from her cheeks and smiling as the crowd around them claps in rhythm with the music that thunders from speakers strapped to the corners of the carts. The market is alive, even as the Federation sends warnings through the devices on their wrists, the screens blinking with emergency orders, but Jarek ignores them. Callie ignores them. The chef raises his hand, calling for quiet, and the music lowers, but the energy remains like a vibration in the bones of everyone there. The chef lifts a bowl high above his head, steam rising into the night air, and says something that Yarrick still cannot understand, but the crowd repeats. It's shouting it to the sky, and then the chef hands the bowl to Yarrick, and gestures for him to eat. Yarrick takes the bowl, feeling the weight of the sauce, the noodles, the steam. He knows the scanners are watching, knows the Federation will see this, but he lifts the noodles to his mouth and takes a bite. The heat is immediate and powerful. It pushes into his sinuses, down his throat, into his chest, and he closes his eyes, letting it burn, letting it remind him that he is alive, letting it strip away the cold layers of discipline and silence that the Federation has wrapped around him since he was a child. Callie steps forward, taking the bowl from his hands and eating next. The crowd cheers. The chef smiles, and for a moment, the only sounds are the crackle of oil, the beat of the music, and the quiet tears that come from the heat but feel like something more. The scanners record, but they cannot taste the scanner's record, but they cannot feel the scanner's record, but they cannot know why. Garrick and Callie smile at each other as the heat fades into a glow that will never leave them. The Federation sends one final order to return to the cruiser, to report, to explain, to justify. But Jarek and Callie look at each other and drop their devices into a pot of bubbling oil, where they sizzle and spark and die. The chef nods, and the crowd erupts into dancing again, the smoke rising in the lights, the music shaking the ground, the sauce dripping onto the earth, leaving small smoking marks that will tell stories long after they are gone. And Yarrick and Callie step into the rhythm of the market, dancing with the others, tasting everything with tears and laughter and fire, choosing this life, choosing the heat, choosing to be human.